How to choose an e-bike, pick your next ride. The question I want to ask you is, how do you tell somebody on an e-bike from somebody who's not on an e-bike? You can't, because the audience is exactly the same. In a few moments I am going to explain the basics about how to choose your electric bike, e-bike. In a few moments we are going to talk about how to choose an e-bike. The person to ride an e-bike is virtually anybody. It could be you, or even you. It's definitely been me. There is virtually every style of bike available in the form of an e-bike, cruiser, cargo, hybrid, and even foldable. E-bikes are great for people who are trying to give up their cars, or those who might be commuting just long enough distances that it makes more sense for them to have some pedal assist versus doing it riding completely under their own power. It's also great for people who might be carrying a lot of cargo, and that could include their kiddos. E-bikes are for people who want to go faster, further, and carry more weight. There are 4 main decision points in choosing an e-bike: class, motor, battery, and features. Let's first talk about e-bike classes. There are 3 basic classes of bike: Class 1, pedal assist to 20 miles per hour, Class 2, pedal assist to 20 miles per hour plus throttle mode, and Class 3, pedal assist up to 28 miles per hour. Class 2 is actually a throttle assist, meaning that you are going to have a motorized bike for all intent and purposes, and they are more restrictive in their use. The clear difference between Class 1 and Class 3 is where that pedal assist stops. That just means that Class 1 is generally more accepted everywhere on more and more trails. Whereas, Class 3, you might still have some restrictions, primarily in mountain biking, but not exclusively so. You want to check in with your local authorities to make sure that your bike is permitted on community trails. Now let's talk about motors. Motors generally come in 2 types, either placed in that bottom bracket called a mid-drive motor, or they'll be located in either the front or the rear hub, so a hub drive motor. The difference between these generally is that a mid-drive is going to feel a little bit more balanced and mirror your natural pedal stroke, and hub drive motors, depending on where they're located, will tend to feel either more push or pull. When you're considering whether you might want a mid-drive motor, the things to consider are again, the placement of the motor, and the fact that it frees your wheels up to make them easier to maintain. If you have flats, for example, it is a lot easier to pull your wheels off and change the flats yourself. In addition, mid-drive motors work with your gearing system, which allows for more efficient use of your battery. The other 2 major considerations in what a motor does for an e-bike are torque and wattage. Torque is the force that helps move that bike forward, and the wattage is the amount of electricity or power that's required to move that bike. Wattage speaks to how quickly the battery will drain. Typically an e-bike that you're going to purchase in most bike stores is either going to have 250 watts, or 500 watts, and, in some cases you might find 750 watts. Everything is a trade-off. The trade-off will be whether you want more battery life or more power. And typically, you're going to concede one or the other, depending on how you're pedaling, and what type of terrain you're on. Let's talk about the differences between lower wattage, lower torque, and higher wattage, higher torque, and whether one or the other might be more useful to your riding style. When we are talking lower torque, lower wattage, the bike typically will be more efficient, and you might be doing a little bit more of that work on your own with just light pedal assist. The upside of this is longer range. You might want higher wattage, higher torque as if you're looking for that workhorse of a bike. If you need the bike to provide more power under load, and you might be carrying more load, so you need bigger power and you might need less range. It's also great for very hilly terrain, the very terrain where that extra power is super useful. There are 2 primary things that you want to know about batteries. The first is where the battery placed. You're going to have either an internal but removable battery, or an internal non-removable battery, or an external battery. The pros and cons of these are that, clearly in an internal battery, whether it is removable or not. An internal battery makes for cleaner lines on the bike, and makes everything look and feel a little bit more like a regular bike. And it allows you also the option for some braze-ons where you can actually still attach a water bottle cage, for example. An external battery will be more easily removable, and typically more easily exchangeable, and they can be placed in several different areas on the bike. The second consideration of a battery is the capacity of the battery. Typically you're going to find that batteries on e-bikes range from about 250 watt-hours to about 500 watt-hours, but you might find some numbers in between that depending on the brand of the bike. The wattage rating just reflects the battery capacity. The question that everybody asks when they are looking at e-bikes is, how far will this bike take me? The easiest, simplest way to answer that is, it depends on how much pedal assist you're using. The more pedal assist you use, the lower the range. The less pedal assistance you use, the longer the range. When you're considering what the range of the bike is, do consider that manufacturers will post what that range can be. It might be 20 to 40 miles, it might be 40 to 50, or 50 to 70 miles. But, be aware that that range is based on the least amount of pedal assist being used in that e-bike. There are a couple of final considerations that you might want to think about when you are choosing your bike. E-bikes start to have a lot of other really cool integrated features, like built-in lights, built-in security and locks. If you want those things incorporated into the bike, it is something also to think about when you're shopping for an e-bike. One of the most important tools on the bike for most riders is going to be the controller. The controller is the thing that powers the bike on and off. And, it will also allow you to choose the level of assist that you want. But the other things that it may show you, depending on the level of sophistication of the controller, would be battery life, speed, and where you are in your total range. Some controllers have more information than others, so if it's important to you to have more information at your fingertips, you might want to think about that when you're choosing the e-bike. The last thing is the weight on these guys can vary quite a lot. They can be anywhere from 25 pounds to 65 pounds. So keep in mind how you're planning on transporting the bike, and storing the bike, so that this bike will fit into your lifestyle. This should give you a lot of information to start the process for shopping for an e-bike. Click the link in the first comment to find our e-bike and accessory recommendations. As always, size and fit are really important, so check out my video on that and I'll see you out in the trail. And, in the next video.